you know, I spent most of my adult life selling airplanes for a living. I had a chance to combine that with the church work one time. I gave my preacher a ride from Huntsville down to Montgomery in one of those little airplanes like we sold. Wouldn't y'all think that a preacher would be totally calm in an airplane with all that faith they all the time bragging about? I would have. My preacher got that airplane, he shut both eyes, he grabbed the armrest, and he just sat there and quivered like this. After a while, he opened one eye and looked out the window. He said, "My Lord, from up here the people look like ants." I said, "Preacher, those are ants. We ain't took off yet." Didn't help. He sat like this all the way to Montgomery, and we got out of the airplane. I said, "I'm going to preach at him," and I did. I said, "Preacher, it does seem to me that you were a tad nervous on that flight." He said, "No, I wasn't. I was scared slap to death." I had him then. I pulled me a lesson right out of the Bible. I said, "Preacher, I don't know why you'd be fearful on that trip when you know full well that the good book says, I am with you always." He said, "No, it does not. It says, lo, I am with you always." I looked it up. That's what it says, you know. Hey, let me ask something. How y'all think I did on that always? See, I'm practicing. When I was in high school, I took one of those psychological tests that I was qualified to be a televangelist or a politician. And I was excited about it, and I was going to do one of them, you know, and then I got older and come to find out I just ain't got the sex drive for either one of them. Been thinking about being an engineer, you know. This, you notice the women was the one clap then. Did y'all say? Oh, this is a good group. Before we start, I want to give you a public address announcement. Now, how many of you ride the airlines 2 or 3 times a year? Let me see the hand. Bunch of you. You do down there, Siler? Yeah, no wonder that hair is that white. You know, if you change your name to Billy Bob, you could run for sheriff anywhere in the South. But seriously, I ride the airlines 2 or 3 times a week, and people all the time coming up and saying, "Aren't you scared to ride the airlines that much?" And I say, "Yes, I really am. I'm terrified." They say, "I knew you would be. You're scared you're going to crash and burn." No, I'm not. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm scared of something way worse than crashing. Siler knows what I'm talking about. I'm scared I'm going to sit next to that fool that'll talk to me all the way to California. I mean, that's worse than crashing. You know who I'm talking about, don't you? You know, dang if you don't look like him. Nah, he wouldn't wear that tie. I mean, I don't know what color you'd call that tie, but somewhere in Tennessee there's a Studebaker ain't got a seat cover in it. But seriously, folks, I know how to keep this guy shut up on the airplane. Now, this is the most important thing I'm going to say. Take notes. When you get on an airplane, forget everything your mother ever taught you about Southern hospitality. Never speak to the person in the next seat. In fact, do not even establish eye contact. Really. Now, this is hard on all you Southern women because y'all been raised to look at everybody you see and say, "Hey, how you?" He will tell you all the way to California. That's the 2 things I don't understand about modern women. They still, after all these years being liberated and all that stuff, they still say, "Hey, how you?" They do that and they wear clean underwear every time they go on a trip. Because their mama told you, wear clean underwear, you might be in a wreck. Men don't care. And half the men in here, your underwear would fall slap on the floor if it wasn't for the crotch of your pants, you know. But seriously, I know how to keep this fella shut up. When you get on an airplane, don't talk to that fella. Do not even look at him. You walk over to your seat, staring at the ceiling. Before he can say a word, you turn around, sit down, open that pouch, reach in there and get that magazine and put your nose in it and don't move it. Nobody will talk to you when you got your nose stuck in a magazine. This works. About 3 weeks ago, I got on this big airline, Delta, Atlanta. Nice looking fella sitting over there. I said, "He'll talk." I walked over my nose, and he looked at me funny, but I didn't say a word. And before he could say a word, I turned around, sat down, opened that pouch, got that magazine, opened it up, and stuck my nose in it. And it worked. He didn't say a word. He looked at me funny. And I'm sitting there so proud because it has worked once again. I've got my nose in the magazine, this whole story. This is a true story now. About half my lies aren't true. This one is. I've got my nose stuck in this magazine, and something happened that had never happened before. Both flight attendants marched straight up the aisle and asked him for his autograph. I said, I'm not falling for that. I don't recognize him. I turned a page to keep him fooled. Folks, the captain and the first officer came straight up that aisle and got his autograph. Now, I couldn't stand it. I'm in quite a quandary here. I want to know who he is, but I'm scared to get my nose out of this magazine. So I looked at him in my smoothest way. Kept my nose in the magazine. I said, are you famous? He said, well, I used to be. I said, who are you? True story. And I said, who are you? He said, Hank Aaron. Folks, I am sitting next to hammering Hank Aaron, home run king, one of the finest athletes who ever lived, and I have got my nose stuck in this magazine. I closed up that magazine, opened that pouch, shoved that magazine down that pouch. Hank Aaron opened up his pouch, pulled that magazine, and kept it there, slapped to San Diego. That's a true story. I want to change the subject totally and brag about my diet. I have been on a diet or going on one tomorrow for 23 years. I've lost 8,713 pounds. I have been on every diet known to man and most diets known to the Reader's Digest. I was on that powdered food diet, nothing but powdered food for 6 months. Got caught out in the rain, gained 18 pounds in 11. But folks, I'm on one that's working now. Seriously, I got it going. I started this in August. I started exercising a lot and dieting a little. Y'all know that Susan Porter on TV with the short hair? I'm going to look just like her. See, I started this. What I started doing is hiking on these little mountain trails we got on the Tennessee-Alabama border, you know. And I started this in August. Hot. Boy, it was a hot day. And I did too much. 2 hours uphill, huffing and puffing. Sweat just pouring off of me, and I came around this corner, and folks, right there was maybe the best swimming hole God ever created. Oh, it looked so cool. I wanted to go swimming so bad, but it had a sign that said private property, no swimming. I hadn't seen anybody in 2 hours. I didn't have a bathing suit, so I went skinny dipping. And it was cool. In fact, in about 10 minutes, it got slapped cold. And just as I was about to rise up out of this water, in all my majestic glory, I looked up, and there, sitting on my clothes, was this hillbilly woman with a rifle. Mean-looking woman, seriously. Looked like perhaps she was attending Georgia Tech on a mud wrestling scholarship. I'm not going to say this was an ugly woman, but folks, you put her in a bathing suit on the beach, the tide would never come back in. It just stay out. Man, I'm in a mess. I'm about to freeze to death. I'm in the water. She's sitting on my clothes. She's toting a rifle. But, you know, I believe in using what you have to the best of your ability. And about that time, I kicked something out of that water. Now, I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. It was a great big round dish pan, like your grandmama used to put on the kitchen counter. That's all I had. I located that dish pan strategically in front of me. I got as skinny as I could get. I came walking out of that water, and I walked up to that bank, and I walked up to that woman, and I said, you know what I think? She said, well, I reckon you think there's a bottom in that dish pan. Now, so I was trying to do the best I could with what I had to work with. But she was looking at things from a different angle, see it? I just got back from a positive thinking seminar. I had a motivational psychologist there with a PhD, and his job was to build up our self-esteem and explain to each one of us that we were unique, important, powerful people. The guy was crazy. He hopped around that stage pointing at me now and say, you are Superman. You're invincible, you're powerful, you can do great things, you're Superman. You know, I got to believe in that nut, and I got on the airline to come home, and the flight attendant came up the aisle and said, sir, would you fasten your seatbelt? I said, yes, sir. Wait a minute. That's negative thinking. This airplane ain't going to crash. And I looked at her with my newfound confidence and self-esteem. And I said, Superman don't need no seatbelt. She looked at me and said, Superman don't need no airplane, fat boy, buckle it. A bit to one bad lie I told y'all. I said I was one of the world's greatest salespeople. Actually, see, I sold airplanes and insurance, airplane insurance. When you sell airplane insurance, your best prospect is a commercial operator at the airport. You know, I mean, there's a lot of money in that, seriously. But folks, if you're going out to sell that person some insurance, you better look sharp and be sharp. Now, the day this true story happened, I'm in my office at the Huntsville, Alabama airport. I've got an appointment with the biggest operator at the Mobile airport. I'm ready, got a new suit, got on my other clean shirt. I am ready to go down there and impress this fellow. And I went out and got in this noisy old airplane. This was before airplanes got quiet. You really had to wear earplugs or you'd go deaf. I get in this noisy airplane in my new suit, climb up on top, level off, head for Mobile. It's clear on top, it's beautiful. And I get to hunting my earplugs. I had left my earplugs. But I believe in doing the best you can with what you got on hand. And I got to looking around that airplane, no earplugs, but somebody had left these filter-tip cigarettes in that airplane. I said, you know, it'd take a darn fool to stick a cigarette in his ear. But Mike, look at that filter. I said, that might make a halfway decent earplug. I'll break that filter. No, there's no sense in breaking it off. I'll leave it on a cigarette so I'll have me a handle. Worked like a charm, see? I couldn't even hear the airplane. I was so proud of myself. I flew that airplane down to Mobile. Made a beautiful landing, you know, work, work. Taxied around, taxied up in front of this great big operation. They're getting ahead of me again, Siler. But you're right again. I got out of the airplane. This fella came up and said, can I help you? I said, my name's Ralph Hood. He would not shake my hand. I went into place and it was full of folks all dressed up like y'all. I said, shoot, it got me a couple of minutes. I'll drum me up some business. Sir, my name is Ralph Hood. I'm an aviation insurance specialist. Ma'am, you can trust me with insurance on your Learjet. I never heard from any of those people again. But I learned something there. Women, I want y'all to know this. There was a lovely young lady behind that counter. Oh, she's really gorgeous. Looked like Janet Crumpets. Now, women, I don't believe y'all know this. But I'm going to tell you the truth. When one of you is interested in one of us, you can't hide it. We can tell it every time. This girl could not keep her eyes off me. But I did not take advantage of that. I went back to the manager's office, got his undivided attention. After I got through, he said, well, let me think it over. I said, fine, you think it over. I'll go to the men's room. I'm in there washing my hands. As far as I know, he's still thinking it over. I have never been back. You know, in all seriousness, that's a true story. It really is. And I have told that story from Alaska to San Juan. And I used to have a tremendous difficulty with that story because the trouble was trying to get the cigarettes in my ear fast enough. You know, I'd break them and it was tough. But I found the solution. Y'all notice tonight how quickly it went in? Brill cream. A little dab will do it. You just pick it, just pop right in your ear. I went out to San Antonio this year, forgot my Brill cream. Didn't matter. I always get there early. I went to the drugstore, got me a huge tube of that Brill cream, took it up the counter. Behind the counter was this long-haired, smart-aleck, punk-looking kid. I hate him, you know. I put this big tube of Brill cream on the counter. That kid looked at that Brill cream. Does that help you hold down all that hair? I said, I don't put them on my hair, I put them on my cigarettes. You could see him getting suspicious, see? He finally said, I'll bite. Does that make them taste better? I said, I don't know. I don't smoke them. I stick them in my ears. He said, boy, that's a lot better than where I thought you was going to say you was coming.